things have been for you guys, from the time you guys started the group and where we are with it now, because clearly you guys are putting a lot of time in promoting the records. Tim was going to give me some insight about the investment you guys made in recording the songs and putting this new record out. And when I had listened to your first record, I liked it a lot, but when I listened to Breathe, I could tell there's a night and day difference in terms of sound quality. Like I knew it right away. I was like, okay, I knew right away you guys spent money on that. And then Tim confirmed that for me. And I'm sorry?
Significant difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
Songwriting and production and everything.
Right. So, but this is the same. You guys had also recorded over in Salem. I forgot the name of the studio you guys recorded at.
God City Studios.
So you recorded your first record out there and then came back again. So clearly you guys had like a very great experience from the first time around recording the first record, and you guys are going back to the second time around and recording this record. So, and then what it dawned on me too was that I was very curious to hear about you guys' approach with your music, because if I remember with Jinx at 12 with you guys were a little more punk, but nothing to the style of music you guys are playing now. So I was wondering like how you guys had developed the sound for the band, because it was hard for me to pinpoint when I was playing to my wife, how she was like, well, how do they sound like? I was like, I have no idea how to explain it, because it's very difficult to kind of give it a distinct identity. It's rock, but I don't know if it's considered pop or if it's considered mellow, because it's heavy riffs, but it's nothing like metal. It's very, very distinct. So I don't know how to describe it for anybody out there who would go about and trying to find your guys in a certain catalog, if you will. So it's kind of a long intro, but I just wanted to make sure that you guys were aware that I love your music. Secondly,
Thanks,
you're welcome. And how would you guys go about in explaining to anyone out there who would not know who you are, what would be the best way to describe yourselves?
Are you pointing at me, Tim?
Whoever wants to take it.
I want you to answer that one.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I think you touched on a couple things there, like, I think, at least like in reference to like, talking about like Jinx at 12 and like where we had come from, I think there's influences that are pulled all from, that DC music scene, everything from like, Fugazi Records to like Majority Rule and Page 99, and I think
that group,
I think there's something to be said about the music that we all had growing up and how that translates to where we are now. And I mean, like, I couldn't tell you for definite, like, I could tell you that there's certain music that we definitely listen to, and there's definitely music that we listen to collectively as a group that has influenced our sound, and that plays into it. Like, you were talking about how our first record versus our current record now, and how there is a distinct tonal change, definitely on the production side, but musically too. And I think a lot of that has to deal with the fact that like between the first and the second record, we solidified as a band. That first record really, like, Tim and I were the only core members at that time, with sort of a rotating group in the
roster.
In for live shows and for the studio. But by the time that we got around to doing this Breathe record, we had really sort of solidified the group in terms of touring. Chris had joined the group. And we really started understanding our dynamics together. And I think that plays into how the tone and the musicality has changed too.
So are you, both you and Tim, like the main songwriters of the group, or does everyone else contribute as far as this record is concerned?
It's all Ben writes songs, and we.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. But we went through a handful of other drummers and bass players before Matt and Chris. And when Matt and Chris joined, that really
it really felt
right. We were like, okay, now we're the Rememberables, and I think that comes forth in the second record, the new record, Breathe. It's really like, this is our band. This is what we're all about,
Yeah. Yeah. So when I listened to the record the first time, when Tim had given me the link to it, what actually surprised me about it was, so like I said, the first record, the first song that I heard, I mentioned before, was The Stranger. that to me kind of set the tone of what I was expecting the band to be, because usually you usually could always tell the sound of the band when you listen to that one song that is typically like the single. So when I heard that song, I was still not sure if that was going to be consistent throughout the record. So when I heard it I came across it on Spotify years after the fact, but when I did come across it, I was actually surprised to learn that you guys had kept that consistency going with the sound. But with the second record, here's what I picked up. It sounds heavier, but I think a lot has to do with the sound being so crisp. It sounds a lot heavier, especially that last track, which I want to get into, by the way, of the song Dirt, because I love that record. I think that's just my favorite song off the record.
Thank you.
So the way you guys are writing your songs, or in this case where you've been, when you're coming in with the songs, do you already have your mind set with where you want the sound to go, or are you open to listen to other people's input about where the sound should go for the group? Or is it already made up in your mind that this is how it's going to be? Tim, you just do this. Chris, you do that. Matt, you do this here, and then we're set with the remaining steps there.
I mean, there's definitely like, I think at least the way that I approach it, I do have like conceptually or like constructively like a certain arrangement in mind when doing it. I think that's part of at least how I approach writing. So I'll bring the songs to the guys, and then from there they help really sort of finalize it and really bring out the nuances and the aspects of it, and with that being said, like I try to approach the songs with the band members in mind, and play to their strengths of who they are and how they fit into that sound, so like I think much like you said, like some of the sounds are heavier on this album. Like Chris is a heavy drummer, and it's like
because he has a metal background too, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and we're not gonna, I mean, we're probably not gonna like bust out a blast beat on our record, although that'd be
the next one.
But like you want the heavyweight drummer of like being able to pound on that kit. So I think even if we bring in slow tracks or slow movements, you still want the depth of those drums to still come across. So
well, for you, Matt, because you joined in the group, I'm assuming, did you join the group before the recording or during the recording process? Before recording, right? So how long were you in the group for before the record started, before you guys get into the second record?
I was in it for the first record. So
okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, I do remember that. My apologies. Okay. Well, so let me answer this real quick then. And forgive me if I sound unprepared, because I'm actually a little tired from working. So if I seem a little off, it's because of that. So I apologize. But you're right. You were on the first record. So in the process of making the second record, then do you feel like you have more confidence as far as like what you were doing in the first record moving into the second record? Because I know, as Ben had mentioned, you guys, there was a rotating roster with the members, but then once you became a full-time member of the group, was there a part of you that felt like I'm leaving them to do what they need to do before I can get myself accustomed and acquainted with the writing process?
I mean, also I feel like definitely after hearing myself on the first record and whatnot, and like that definitely got me some confidence. And then upgrading my gear was like a huge boost too. And then working with Kurt, he would essentially, Kurt, like you'd play something and Kurt would be like, it's good, but it could be better. And you're like, well, yeah, you're fucking right, dude. It could be better. And then you just keep playing and and it's like, find some cool shit that you didn't think you could do.
So let me ask you guys all, for three of you guys, when you guys are the writing process, are you dependent on Ben to give you guys what he wants to do as far as the direction of the music, or do you guys have some insight and then wait on him to provide the ideas for you to add on with what you want to input for the music?
I feel like Ben definitely, like he kind of comes up with this like core idea, and then at practice we play with it, and we'll either play it faster or slower or like add some things here and there, but it's like Ben pretty much comes with a blueprint ready for it.
Okay. So are you guys all confident with his okay.
Yeah, You can think about it kind of like an outline or something, you know. Ben comes
Right.
in with the outline and the bare bones, you know, the song or whatever, and then we'll tweak it a little. We'll change a little part here and there. You know, I'll play like a solo or something, you know, and Chris will do some crazy fill or change some drum beat around or something, you know. You'll just kind of tweak it.
You know, when I first heard the second record, I was not sure what to expect, to be completely honest with you, because a lot of times, you know, after I like something, when I first heard the first record, I really did enjoy it, but sometimes I always get a little hesitant about, you know, what the group is going to be doing next, because that's usually like the where you can really see where the mindset is as far as the direction of music is concerned. So when I heard the second record, I told Tim literally on the text, like, this is fucking amazing. You guys have put on a great record, because I was not sure what to anticipate with the music that you guys were going to provide here with the second record.
Thanks, man.
Well, you're welcome. But I also wanted to ask you too about your confidence level when it comes to composing the music together, because sometimes I always wonder where the group is at when, or whoever's writing the music, where their mindset is at when they're actually making the music together. Because, you know, if you, Ben, are coming in and writing all the songs and you're pretty set on like what you want to do, is it a struggle for you to feel confidence? All right, I'm happy with this. I'm confident enough to share with the group, or do you have to fight it with yourself to be able to be willing to share with the guys about, hey guys, this is what I've come up with. I think this might be a good direction for us to go. What do you think? Or is it, I got it?
I think it's a little bit of both, right? I mean,
Okay.
you know, like if you look at it as any kind of collaborative relationship, whether you're at work or you know, in a band with a group of guys, or in like a relationship, you know, like ultimately you learn that like there's communication involved, and like
Right.
there's always going to be people that you have your own ideas, you have your own you know, but without collaboration, or without a understanding of another perspective or a way of looking at things, you don't necessarily get your vision across, right? And so part of it as an artist is, how do I communicate this, and how do I communicate it to other people that are working with me on the project? But then also the other aspect is, how does the contribution of other voices lend a new perspective on the project, or lend a new voice or a new way about doing things, you know? And I think that has been part of the learning relationship of being the group, you know? And I think in doing so, it definitely is like, it presents both a challenge, but it's also like part of the experience and part of the magic of being in a band together, you know, without sounding too cheesy about it. But
What's actually what's the for each of you guys, what's actually the worst process or for you guys to make the music or to create the music, record it? What's the least thing you're looking forward to when it comes to putting it all together? Because I would imagine that as much as you guys enjoy creating it, there's got to be something that you don't enjoy as much and actually including in that process.
I don't think I have anything. I love. I feel fortunate to like be able to play with these guys. Like they're my best friends, and so it's like just spending time with them is already just like a huge plus, you know.
Right.
But
I think the waiting process, right?
The waiting process.
Like, you know, like
Whatever.
I think doing the sort of like having to schedule and slate a release followed by a tour and stuff, especially with pandemic right now, I think all of us are just jonesing for some kind of normalcy to being able to get back to any semblance of a touring lifestyle or music lifestyle right now, you know.
Well, this is actually recorded last year, am I right? Is that when you guys had to put the record together, or was it done this year?
It was a couple years at this point there. So
So what was the delay for the release? Was it just trying to finalize everything before you guys were?
Yeah,
confident with it?
finalizing everything, and then pandemic happened, and then it
Oh.
sort of just pushed the schedule back, till now. And then now we're still looking at, what the touring schedule is going to be like for 2022, because everything's getting rescheduled already. So it's like
Yeah.
there's that delay too. So, but yeah, I mean, just, I think in looking at like doing any of the sort of business side of it, that's probably the hardest part. The biggest
You
challenge.
actually brought something up that I wanted to ask you guys about, the business aspect of it, because this is actually what when Tim was telling me about the whole, because we were conversing a while ago about me reaching out to representatives and whatnot. And I was like, this is brand new to me. I had no idea how to go about in dealing with that. And he was kind of giving me some insight about how you more or less are guys going through the same thing as well too. So when you guys, because when you guys were starting the group together, I know you guys are very ambitious and wanted to try in creating music, but seeing the business out of it as well, did that kind of give you a different perception about how, you guys are as far as your creative process is concerned? Because the part of me wonders that, with indie music, you guys have, I would imagine you have more control with what you guys want to do. But once you start involving management, PR, and things of that nature, somehow, some way that would affect on how the record gets released, and then how you are, how they're going to want you to approach to represent the record, if you will. So have you guys experienced anything like that, whether it be with this record or since your first record up to this point?
Not really.
Okay.
We've actually been. We only have 2 releases, both on independent labels. So they're small labels. They pretty much let us do whatever we want creatively. They
Okay.
they release our records because they like what we do. It's not us catering to anyone.
Yeah, I think that's something that's been fortunate for us, is just
Okay.
being able to remain DIY. And we haven't really had to have that pressure from moving to that level yet. Like we're still very much DIY in that regard. And like the label really does. I mean, this is our second release with Adagio out of Europe. And then we got to release it, do a split release this time with Breathe with Josh from Head to Wall. And he's just been awesome through this process. And we really have like the support of people that are, enthusiasts just like us.
Have you guys ever met like any sort of or experienced any sort of like I guess like roadblock when it comes to the business aspect of the industry, or in the indie scene rather? Do you guys have any sort of you had any preconceived notion about how things would be going, and then once you're seeing the business side of it, there was either a rude awakening or more or less an educational process for you guys of how to actually go about it differently moving forward in some other respective areas, as far as how you guys would be touring or selling merchandise or asking for representation rather, in some capacity with whatever you guys would be doing under the label, whatever else? Anything like that has changed for you along the way too?
I think it's just constantly been like a learning process for us. And I think we had the benefit of having road experiences. I mean, you got Tim and Chris, who have been in other touring bands as well, and so they have that road expertise. They have expertise from their other groups, bring that and contributing that in. But it's always a constant learning process, as we move forward and continue with more releases. But I feel like for us, it's still very much like a early incubation in the process. So
Right.
Yeah, I think part of the growing up realization of it is there really isn't like any money in it.
Yeah.
So you really do just kind of do it because you love to do it or whatnot, like maybe a few lucky people turn into jobs and careers and stuff. But most people out there touring and playing shows and stuff, they go home and work other jobs so they can,
Yeah.
do it again. Yeah.
Well, so when you guys are, as you guys are doing this here, I know that this is obviously your passion, and this is something you guys want to pursue on a full-time basis. But one thing that I'm curious about, how the life is on the road, because some of the most common thing I've come across with some bands is that sometimes you be on tour, and despite the fact that you love it, there might be there's a part of you that may think, is it even worth it now? Because the couple of gigs we've been playing in the last couple of sets, haven't been a great turnout, and then there's that one that comes out that like, holy shit, now this is worth it. So have you guys ever questioned yourselves in those particular moments where you just didn't seem like things were moving forward for you, despite the fact you guys are having fun, traveling, being together, but not getting the feedback that you would want from the crowd or from the area that you're playing at. So I'm wondering if you guys have some sort of like second guessing, if you will, about what you guys are doing, and maybe you have to reconsider your, and having to reevaluate what's going to be top priority after, once you guys are done with this tour or whatever it is you guys are doing as far as your music careers are concerned.
I mean, I think it's gonna always be a tough question, right? Because at some point, like, you go, hey, like, there's only so many floors I could crash on, like, before my actual physicality and my back cannot handle it, but like, I mean, that's the same with like, whether or not like hauling a half stack day in, day out is going to be like conducive, but the thing is, like, we have the privilege enough to get to share this experience with really close friends,
Right.
And the thing is, like, it's really awesome that we get along with each other on the road, I think even the tightest of performing bands usually want to rip each other's heads off, but we've survived enough tours together that we respect our boundaries and spaces, and we give that to each other, but we also get along amazingly well. And I think that for us, like, gives a motivation. And I think also looking at it from not constantly being a business experience, like, we know that touring and we know that all this stuff is part of the industry and doing certain things, but for us it's also just the adventure of being able to do this as a collective group together, and getting to perform together and learning to communicate that together. I think there's always that kind of dialogue that's being exchanged that you don't necessarily get with everyone. And at some point, in a later point in time, when you stop doing it, you're going to go, man, like, if I was just more fun in that moment, or just had more fun in that moment, I would have realized just how special and valuable that time was.
I mean, you kind of touched on it in the question, man. Like, sure, times get stressful and everything, and you question everything, but then you have like that one show or whatever, where you just like kill it, and you're like, oh yeah, this is why we do it, like, this is awesome.
Like, it's usually the unexpected shows that are the ones that like end up being the most fun, and you're like, I should have really just had no expectations.
Yeah. Some tiny dive bar in some foreign country for like 20 people, and you're like having the time of your life or whatever.
I think one of my fondest memories was when we played the Bo Diddley House in Gainesville. We pull up to the venue, and it was just
in Florida or in Virginia?
Florida.
Okay.
Yeah, and there was this dude that just had this like cool ass metal vest, and I think we all just unanimously thought if we had the only person we really wanted to blow away is this fucking dude, and sure enough, that dude was so pumped to watch us play. Like, over the merch table was just a great time, but like, it's always fun to just like do things like that. It's like you get all these awesome experiences on the road and meet so cool fucking people.
So do you guys like I'm sure you guys, because here's the thing I didn't realize when it came to the road life. Sometimes you're going from one place to another, and then you might get an unexpected place to play at that wasn't part of the stop, the
itinerary.
Yes, exactly. So how does that work for you guys? Because here's the thing, I imagine that you guys have like a set schedule. So all right, we're going to be on the road, say in Europe for 2 weeks. And we're going to go to these spots and these spots. And I know you have days in between that you may have some free time to go out and explore. But there, when you guys are going through those moments where you are having to, someone comes up and say, hey, we got a gig you guys can play at tonight at this time. If you want it, you can take it. Is that something you guys are prepared to accept, or you guys are prepared to put the extra energy what you guys might be holding back on for the show you may have the following night? Because I would imagine going on the road for a short span of time, playing a number of gigs, that's going to wear you out after a while. But sometimes there's that one show that someone says, "Hey, play this spot. It's all yours, if you want it or not." And then I'm curious if you guys reconsider about how you would approach that, or if you guys already prepared for that in the event that were to happen. I think I asked that correctly. Hopefully.
Yeah, no, I think we definitely, like, while when we're on the road, we definitely have that sense of professionalism in that regard, and going that like take for instance when we toured Europe in 2018, we had 2 shows that had fallen through or had gaps in the schedule, and we only found out about them when we were on the road. So it was like we had some last minute offers that came through, and they ended up being really fun shows, and we just went right there and we added it to our schedule. So in that regard, I think we go in prepared, because we rehearse the sets. We go out with the intention of playing every night. If we get a day off that's scheduled, that's awesome, but I mean, ultimately we know what we're doing this for, and putting that investment and time into. So if more show offers open up, or if somebody's like, "Hey, let's do a radio interview or in-store record performance before like a show that night or something like that," we'll take it. So yeah,
we're down for whatever, man. When we're on the road, we want to play every day, all day, every day. Yeah.
What about for you, Matt? Are you more or less in the same mindset too when it comes to that, or do you have a different approach in how that gets sorted out or handled?
No, I love playing every day. I feel like when we get the gaps in between, I get anxious, because I'm like,
really,
yeah, because I'm in that mood. Cause it's, again, I'm riding with my 3 best friends, and we're playing like awesome rock and roll, like all these fun cities, eating really cool food, meeting awesome people. It's like,
yeah, in a weird way, days off kind of suck. Yeah.
Really? Okay.
I feel like everybody's like contributing to us by like offering us places to stay, cooking us food, just like
right.
It's like,
with that being said, though, we do know how to enjoy a good day off.
Absolutely, yeah.
Nothing short from like going to a Dave and Buster's or go-karting.
Go-kart.
Oh yeah.
But like, no, but for real, it's like I feel like the chance for us to play music for everybody is kind of like our, like, that sounds cliche, but like our gift back to everybody. Kind of like what everybody's giving us, all this kindness, and we're offering fun rock and roll.
So let me ask you about something here with the road life, because please understand when I'm asking the question, my intention is not to have you gossip. That's not what I'm trying to do, but I'm curious about some of the things you would see on the road that maybe you had a perception on, say, a certain country, certain area, and then you come across something that that either exceeded or had completely tainted your perception or your experience, but somehow it added to the I wouldn't say the enjoyment factor, but it definitely added more to your the experience of what life is like, that you probably don't experience here at home, but you're seeing it over there, and you get either a welcome education as far as like what other people in the other parts of the world are experiencing that you see firsthand, and then it's a welcome experience for you. But then there's another part of it where you experience something that's probably nowhere near as good, possibly awful, but it's added to your educational on what it's like for other people, for you. I hope I'm answering that question, because I'm trying to make sure that I don't want to ask it in a way to be disrespectful, if you guys understand where I'm coming from with this here. So hopefully you guys understood what I was trying to go for here.
Absolutely. Like, okay. Like whether or not, like, on the road we have a cultural difference, or
right. Yeah.
I mean, that's part of that's part of the experience, right? Is like being able to tour, and like, I say this all the time with people that, like, I'm blessed to have the time right now to be able to devote to actually doing leisure traveling, which I never made time for in the past. But even with that being said, like there's something about touring within a band context that is just, you can't recreate that experience in anything else. You know, the idea of only having one night, sometimes even just a few hours in a given city, and you're probably playing on the other side of town where no tourists are hanging out, you know, and you're getting that kind of like experience of a city and in places that you probably would never ever, you know, put high on like a list of places like you need to travel or
Right.
destination. But those end up being the most charming experiences, or they don't. They end up being the most horrifying. But like you go, I would never have seen it otherwise had it not been part of this tour or this experience. And in that regard, you know, I think it's a pretty stellar and pretty awesome thing to be a part of. But yeah, like I think Tim, Matt, I'm sure you guys have perspectives from the road, but I know that when we did our European tour back to back with the US, it was a very eye-opening experience for us. I think Matt touched on some of that earlier, where it was like even something as little as having everyone sit together after sound check and there's a catered meal for everyone to enjoy, and like it's the bands, the promoters, the sound engineers, the people from the club, all sitting together and sharing this meal together. And it's very unlike some of the experiences that you have in the US. And like doing the US tour afterwards, it was like there was that sort of missing charm of like creating fostering a community amongst the bands, fostering community amongst the promoters and the club and the venue, and sort of having that lookout for each other, you know.
The US shows, it's like, here's your 2 drink tickets or whatever. Yeah.
Also, like the distance between shows is like driving is like 8 to 12 hours in the US. In Europe, I think our longest day was like 4.5 hours driving, and like so we were actually able to experience like every spot we played at and got to like try out like a ton of really cool local stuff there.
Matt, just to give you a heads up, so when you're speaking, I can definitely hear you, but it's not as nowhere near as loud as both Ben and Tim when they're covered. So you may want to, if you can speak up, if you can bring the microphone a little closer to you, because I think whenever you're speaking, it doesn't, because I have it on speaker, it doesn't go to you. It stays on Tim's face the entire time. So it sounds like Tim's conscious is talking or something.
I'll just start like ad-libbing along with Matt when he's talking, so it looks like his voice is coming out of my head.
I like speaking hushed whispers only.
But no, I heard what you were saying though. So, well, I mean, look, here's one thing I found fascinating about you guys, because you know, the video that I really appreciated a lot was the one you guys did for Miles, and that's really what you guys are, you know, traveling through Europe and you're seeing all the shows you guys are playing at, the little stops here that you guys are making, conversing with people, eating food, and whatever the case may be. And so I was curious about, you know, what those experiences were like for you, because I know, I mean, I'm not saying that you guys are only showing the beauty side of it, because I'm sure it was pretty consistent like that for the most part. But there was always a part of me that always wondered that if someone would ever show or describe the other side of touring, where, you know, it might be a little, not, I wouldn't say dangerous, but maybe a little questionable, if you will. And again, this is the part where I was trying to say, I don't want you to get the impression I'm asking for gossip, but I'm just curious about how, when you guys are going through those experiences on the road, that there's a part of you that may want, that are either questions that, you know, maybe we should just stop and just go this direction and avoid going down this path, because I don't see this being, you know, I don't think this is going to turn out too well for us. Like, I'm wondering if it's something that you guys experience where you guys are going down a path and you just weren't sure what the outcome was going to be if you continue down that road, and you decide, you know what, maybe we should just reroute and go elsewhere, because this is not worth going down, you know, for us to continue here. I'm sure, I hope I'm making sense when I ask that.
Yeah, no, guys, I hope you don't mind if I chime in on that one, but stop me if I'm talking too much. But no, No, I think at least what's beneficial for our group is, I think all of us have recognized in all of our adult lives, and we've done enough talking with each other where we have a lot of the personal conversations where it gets hard because like a lot of us in our own personal lives and stuff like that, we've had to sort of figure it out. And I think as us a band, I think what we were talking about, where we find a close group knit of friends, is part of it is us learning to communicate with each other, and then also being able to talk about the things that we weren't able to talk about in other aspects of our lives, and also being respectful and trying to build that space, that safe space for us, but then also building healthy boundaries for each other too, so that if we go out on the road for 30 days at a time, we're not going to be at each other's throats or be condescending to one another, or using shit against each other type of thing.
Yeah, we're actually pretty tame on the road, man. We're pretty G-rated. I don't know. We just kind of
G-rated.
Yeah.
But I think there is a lot to be said,
Yeah.
about being on the road, and then going down that dark path where it's like you don't have that healthy outlet to be able to discuss or talk about your issues. Or
I'm more I think, because I was trying to figure out how I can ask the question, because I was trying to what I was trying to articulate was that you're seeing something that I'm not saying that the group is going to be, or someone in the group is going to be into doing. That's not what I was referring to. It was more about seeing something that is questionable, and you're going to play at a gig and something doesn't seem to add up well for you guys. And then because I'm wondering, because you're on the road, you're traveling, and you're going to go to places that you've never been before, and as a result, you may stick out in a group of people that know you guys are not locals.
Yeah.
And there's a potential. I'm not saying it's like that, but I'm curious: is there a point where there's a potential danger behind going to some spots that could present that may have a reputation, if you will, of not being the most safest.
Oh, yeah.
And you guys are going into that, and so I guess that's what I was trying to ask. Not, and I hope I didn't imply that you guys were trying to into doing something shady. That's not what I was referring to. But
yeah, lots of rock clubs are in shady neighborhoods for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or like in shady towns, or
right.
We're usually like accompanied by the locals, so we're kind of like.
So you guys have like someone who's walking you around through all those areas to kind of give you an insight about what to be expecting, what to avoid, and things like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then ultimately, sorry, Tim.
Oh, that's cool. Like that's a big difference, I guess, touring as like traveling around as a tourist or as a rock band. If you tour as a rock band, you have like a promoter at the club who generally like lives in whatever city you're at, and is like suggesting like places to eat and what to do, and like half the time we're like staying at his house even to sleep that night, and so it's kind of a very like catered experience, like in a way. Each city we go to, it's like almost like it's kind of tight because you get like the sense of each city from the local, because he'll like tell you, he'll suggest like his favorite stuff to you. You're only in town for one night, you got to eat here or whatever.
Yeah, we've also had the benefit of having like Tim and Chris both being regular season touring musicians that know their own network and contact of like you said, we had promoters and other friends that are usually showing us around or giving us the tip or advice for certain towns and places. So
Gotcha.
even when traveling abroad, we were in pretty good hands for most of the time. So it was never something where we felt like we were on like a lone desert planet or something like that.
Were you going to say something earlier, Matt? Because I thought you were trying to chime in on something before.
No, I was
okay.
Just kind of agreeing. Yeah.
Okay.
Man, if you wanted crazy road stories, you should have asked that question to my other band, Walk the Plank, when you were talking to them. Man, those guys, we got ourselves in all sorts of crazy situations.
Yeah.
But Rememberables are actually pretty chill, man. I don't know. We generally
I think Tim
You
froze.
know, let's go to some apartment where like sleep right after the show and watch like some Jim Carrey movies or some shit. Just hang out. We're not really like getting in too much trouble. I don't know.
So so I want to shift gears here for a little bit because you actually mentioned about Jim Carrey. You know, I'm curious because Tim, I have an idea what he's into because we actually conversed about it recently. But as far as you guys are, you know, you, Matt, and Ben, what is, because I know music is a main passion for you guys, but is there anything else you guys are into outside of that has just as much value for you as far as like entertainment's concerned, movies, pop culture stuff, things of that nature that you guys gravitate to outside of music?
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
we're all huge movie buffs.
Yeah. I mean, we're looking at your VHS collection and just being like, man, I could watch all this right now.
Dude, me and Ben used to work at a freaking movie theater, dude, for years. Yeah. That was our,
I
like,
see that, yeah.
or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was trying to nerd it up with you today, man.
I noticed that just now. I caught that up. I just caught that here. That's amazing.
I love my Batman comics, man.
Yeah,
I'm
you told me.
Big old nerd. Yeah.
Are you excited for the new Batman movie that's coming out next year?
Oh yeah, the Robert
Okay.
Patterson one.
Yeah.
Yeah. The trailer looks cool, man. It's got that
Yeah.
Nirvana song in the soundtrack and shit.
I never heard that song before. Have you guys ever heard that song before? Because that was actually the first time I ever heard it.
no.
It's like some remake. It's like this
Right.
classic Nirvana song, but someone just put like an all out like orchestra over it to make it
Right.
see. Like I think it sounds pretty dope.
Yeah, I thought it was good too, but I was like, this I've never heard. Someone says Nirvana. I was like, you fucking serious? Nirvana did that? I was like, I've never heard this
Nirvana
song.
and a Batman commercial.
Yeah. I was like, Nirvana and Batman, what? Yeah.
dude.
Yeah, times have changed, I guess. But well, I mean, so yeah, Matt, you said you were I saw your collection out there. So like you said you're a movie buff. So what sort of stuff are you into as far as like films or television? So what's your cup of tea, if you will?
I'm gonna have to hop off in a second, but like
Okay.
I love everything from like the 80s and 90s. Like last night we watched UHF.
Oh, it's a classic
man.
movie. I love that movie.
Weird Al movie with like Fran Drescher and Michael Richards. Like it's so good and just like.
Oh, I think his audio just cut off. I think your audio just cut off there,
Talking
Matt.
very, very quiet.
Sorry, but yeah, no, it's like anyways, but I'm gonna have to get off here in a second. But
It's all good, man. Well, hey, I appreciate you taking the time here, and I'm sorry that we weren't able to talk with you as much, but thanks for sticking around here, and I'll look forward to see you guys down the
Bye,
line. So
Matt.
you take care, Matt.
all right,
All right, bye-bye. All right, so I guess the question now leads to you, Ben. Pop culture stuff, films. I'm curious to see what your
Like specific films or whatever?
It doesn't really matter. I mean, genre-wise, because I'm curious to see. Here's the reason why I asked, because you know, a lot of musicians, when they have, you know, they play a certain style of music, I'm curious to see if there's any sort of outside influences that they have, you know, gravitated to, and then somehow if that has ever infiltrated with their music. Because
Absolutely.
yeah, because I'm curious if the music you guys are playing with the band, I'm thinking like I'm thinking of movies that you could play those songs with. That's how the
Right.
first thing that comes to mind. So I'm wondering if that's something that you incorporate with the songwriting process.
Well, you know, like I think there's a lot to be said about the place and time that a lot of things made an impression on you, right? Like,
Right.
you know, like the first record you've heard, the first movie you
Mhm.
watched, and you know, I grew up watching. Yeah, I watched everything. You know, I remember being like a 4 or 5 year old kid watching Terminator 2 in theaters and being like,
Yeah.
yo, my dad just literally just took me to watch this movie, you know. But yeah, I mean, we're a product of like 90s movies. So yeah, like
Yeah.
a lot of things that we reference. But Tim and I were also like movie theater geeks. I mean,
Yeah.
we worked at an independent movie theater, so we got to watch all
What
the
where at exactly?
Cinema Arts over at Fairfax.
Cinema Arts.
Yeah.
What street was that on?
That was Main Street, right across from
Oh,
Woodson.
I know exactly what you're talking. Is that right? Where was it again? Right by was it like there was a PetSmart? No.
There was a Petland. There was a Petland.
Right,
there,
Pella was on
and
the
there
other
was,
side of the street, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know
It was
exactly.
like
what
in
you're
that
talking
Yeah.
corner of that shopping
about.
center.
Yeah.
Oh, next to Old Country Buffet.
Exactly. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. Is
So
that
yeah,
still
we-
there?
Me and
Yeah,
Ben
it's
worked
still
there
there.
for years, man.
Oh.
That was our like late teens, early 20s job.
But yeah, I mean, we spent a lot of our youth, smoking a lot of weed and watching a bunch of art films, you know. I mean, like, think about it, you know, that time you had like movies like Lost in Translation and
Yeah.
that Garden State, which doesn't hold up, but you know,
I was
good at the
mixed about that
time.
movie when I bought it when
yeah.
it came out on DVD.
But
I was
like, I mean, it was like every indie little kid's like first date movie, you know.
yeah.
But you know, like those, like, you know, I was heavily influenced by a lot of that stuff, and you know, one of those like multi-sensory people. So like when I hear music, I see visuals. You know,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, it's that kind of thing where it's like all of it sort of plays together. You know.
yeah. Well, so here's what I was thinking. Like for example, when I heard Miles, um, I thought the first image I thought in my mind was not necessarily like a romantic movie, but more like a what's the word I want to describe, because it's more like I picture like an adventure, like a road trip, if you will.
Yeah.
So I picture a road trip, but the road trip is distinctly about one person in a group, and they're going through a specific journey of some sort. And then eventually they would either come across someone that they really, really like, and then they had like a what's the word? What's the phrase that you they come to like a self-realization of who they are, if you will. That's how I pictured the song to be. I honestly I didn't pay attention to lyrics. I'm not, and I hope you can forgive me for
But
not doing
you
that.
sort of hit it right on the tone, though. I
Okay.
mean,
Coming
you
of
know,
So-
age story. I believe that's what they call it in the movie world.
Coming of age, exactly right. So that's how I pictured the song. If used on a film, it's, you know, for a scene in a film like that. So when I listened to that, I was like, I was thinking like there's got to be an influence from watching those type of films, you know, especially when it comes to like you know, like maybe like 16 Candles, even though that's a little more specific. But 16 Candles, I was actually talking to a drummer by the name of Hunter Martinez of a group called Decent Criminal. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of that group, but he was telling me like what one movie he like loved was Can't Hardly Wait, and I was like, that is a fucking underrated movie. I don't care what people say, I love that movie, and it has those same sensibilities too,
yeah.
where you have all these different stories coming out at once, but there's a soundtrack to someone's life that you can use, and that's virtually how the film works. You have like soft rock music, then you have hip hop music, then you have Guns N' Roses playing. It's just like a eclectic sound of music that's featured in this one movie, and I was like, that is what a movie should be like in my mind. It's just a wavelength of like emotions that the music should be able to, you know, complement. So when I listen to your record, I'm thinking to myself, like, you know, where could I put this in a scene of a movie? And I usually go based off the rhythm, and then I listen to the lyrics, and I hope that the lyrics match the rhythm. But yeah, I mean those are my thoughts when it comes to like music. But I'm sure when you were writing this, as you mentioned before, that you got those influences. But I always wondered if you pictured in mind what the visuals are going to be to play alongside with the music, or is that something that you guys develop after the fact? Like for example, with like The Stranger, or even Miles, or even your most recent one. Fuck, I'm forgetting the song off the top of my head.
Bummer.
Bummer. Thank you.
The one I texted to you the other
Yeah,
day.
exactly right.
That's
So
Bummer. Yeah.
that's what I'm wondering, if you guys have those visuals in mind in place as you're writing it before you guys get to the video aspect of it.
No, I would say that the visuals come after. You know, like if we
Okay.
had to rank things in a certain kind of setting, it's always the music and melody first,
Right.
the lyrics, and then the visuals come usually after, you know, recording something. But like while I'm writing it, is there things, thoughts, or ideas, or, you know, mindsets? Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
definitely for lyrics, for sure. And I think when you were describing how you saw the song, it's actually hits a lot of the lyrics right on the money, you know.
Okay.
Because I think lyrically it was dealing with maybe not a coming of age of that time, but coming of an understanding of where, you know, an individual is in his place and time, but only develops over a certain time, you know.
Right.
And so I think in that regard, you know, there is an approach to, you know, the way that we write an album the way we sequence an album. You know, I think we were all kids that actually like made mixtapes the old school way.
Yeah.
So like there's always like an ebb and flow, right? And
Right.
much like a movie, a soundtrack, or anything like that, you want some kind of arc or a flow that makes sense. Just the way that you would compose a set for a band, you know, you would
Right.
want, you know, your set to have some kind of semblance, an arc.
Right. So let me ask you guys about the video making of The Stranger, because like I said before, that was the first thing I came across as far as your music is concerned. I saw that video and I was actually quite surprised to see that, you know, that you, Tim, were acting. Obviously there's no dialogue in the video, but I wasn't sure who had come up with the idea for the video, and if this is something you all had decided together to shoot, had hired someone to do it for you guys, or was this something that you guys had given complete freedom for someone else to interpret as far as the visuals are concerned for how the video was going to play itself out?
It was all Ben.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Ben just followed me around with a camera and told me what to do. And all those drinks are real. So that is me getting like legit wasted in the video.
Really?
I'm just like trashed. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we knew at that time, you know, this was still very much early on in us sort of finding our voice and our dynamic as a band. But like, we knew that we needed some kind of visual representation for the band, and set a tone for that record. And so like, yeah, I think much like you said, like Stranger was a sort of an odd choice to do as a quote unquote single.
It was a good one. I think it was a really good choice. You guys picked that one as the lead singer, if you will, because I think that was that made me realize that you guys were willing to take chances with what you were trying to go for. And I think the visual certainly complemented that too, in my opinion. So
thanks,
yeah,
man.
Yeah.
Like I think tonally we definitely wanted to establish that. And like I think sometimes when creating video work, you know, you could either create something that's sort of ambiguous, but like you're ultimately trying to communicate something with it. And I felt like you know, early on as a band, it was like, yeah, what are we trying to establish? What are we trying to communicate through our words that maybe not necessarily lyrically we could get in tone, we could get and try to achieve it with a visual aspect, you know? And so part of it was we were on a constrained budget. We didn't have any money as a band.
Yeah.
The other part of it was we had some good equipment and good friends who knew how to navigate. And I knew that I had wanted to create a very DC centric video with DC sort of playing as another character in the video, even if it's just setting. But I never found like you know, there was not a lot of work out there that really at least visually in film or in a lot of aspects that really captured the DC that I knew. And so like in a way it was like telling a story about an individual but setting it right in that DC setting. So like none of the stuff that we shot had any like, it was just all ambient lights from the actual locations.
Right. Natural lighting, if you will. Yeah.
And really sort of trying to make the camera as much of an observer as possible rather than be sort of forefront in that direction, I guess, if that makes sense.
I know you're going
sort of
with
like
this here.
shooting almost in a voyeur documentary like style with them.
So it's like a third person watching in a sense. That's kind of what you're trying to go for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. Actually, that's a good, you actually made me realize that was the case here. Well, so for you, Tim, because I actually wanted to ask you about that too, because there was, and I'm gonna be completely honest when I say this here, and I hope you understand where I'm coming from. When I saw that, there was a part of me that wondered if a lot of it was authentic, because there, you know, the character that you're playing in the video was very much like a lonesome guy who just somehow is not connecting with anybody. So I was wondering if like a lot of that was an influence of your own personal life that you infuse into the performance, or it's just simply
You're gonna make me
I'm
answer
going to get
this.
into character and I'm just going to be able to pull it off, and it is what it is. So I'm just curious if that was the case here.
It was very easy to play that part.
Okay.
Of the lonely single guy wandering from bar to bar in DC. I was very familiar with this quote unquote character.
Gotcha. Well, so when you guys had shot that, were you content with what you were able to capture, or were you still kind of questioning whether or not if this was something you still wanted to go with and use as as the visuals for the song?
I think there's always a part that's sort of insecure about what you're doing, because you're really putting it out there, and it's like, our main focus is the music, right?
Right.
Like that's the intent. That's what we're trying to communicate across. So any visuals is always going to be awkward, and it's like, much like wearing the cape on stage or whatever. It's like once you're off of it, the insecurities, the vulnerability comes back, and I feel like the same comes with doing any music representation. And I knew that we weren't going to do necessarily a performance video, because all of us are just a little awkward, when it comes to that. But like also tonally, and we knew that we had something to share in that regard. And so like, I know like when that video was completed, it was not something that like felt 100% confident behind. I just was like, well, it really fits with the tone of the song. Let's share it and see how it vibes with other people. And it seems to have had a collective response where somebody relates to it in some way or another.
Yeah. What was the response you got once you saw it, once you finalized the video and showed it to the group, or showed it to family members, friends? Like, what was their initial response when you showed them that?
Oh, I like showing it off to people. It was my first time doing any kind of like acting or anything. I like showing people.
I think it was awesome seeing Tim do it, because Tim portrays that role real great. Looks great on film.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
But yeah, like I think there was a little bit of a pride in going, oh, we actually achieved something that like visually communicates something that was trying to do on record, and knowing how to marry the two, and whether or not that works in all occasions or not, and I think in that regard, like it worked perfectly for the song, and like tonally, like it gave us an idea, and I think that was cool.
But did it, when you first showed it to family and friends, was their response receptive, positive, or I'm not that interested? What was the general consensus for everyone that saw it for the first time once you put it all together, outside of the group?
I mean, friends are always gonna like be supportive, that's like the nature of your friends, Like, so,
but I think it was encourageable. I mean, like, I think everyone sort of didn't think we were going to go that angle, and so when we did, it was sort of like a nice response of people actually vibing with it, listening to the song, and like it ended up being one of the songs that, like, when we went on our first tour abroad, it was one of the more receptive songs. We actually included it in our set list like every single night, which we weren't doing for a lot of our US shows.
Interesting. So speaking of set lists, the first record, when you guys went on tour, because there's only 7 tracks on that record, this is gonna be a 2-parter, because I'm curious to see how you guys handle this here when it comes to the repetitiveness of playing the songs over and over again. When you guys were going on tour and creating the set list, were you guys pretty much going from track 1 to track 7, or mixing around with some other songs, maybe cover songs, or anything else that you guys may be making up, maybe putting together that hasn't been released yet, that you're throwing into the set list that to kind of fill in the time? Like what was that process like for you in the first tour for that record?
Actually, we did have more songs than just that record when we started touring, because even though we hadn't recorded the second record yet, we had a few of those songs written already.
Okay.
So We were actually playing a lot of the songs on our new record on our previous tours. They were already written, so why not play them? Because we didn't have a very long set list.
But
And
we did try to like conceive, especially for the longer tours, we would rehearse a set that we would play pretty much standard, for the entire time. But we didn't do it necessarily in the sequence of the record or anything like that. It would be more like take some from here, take some from there, and then add in a couple covers and stuff like that. But like when we got our set down to a certain style, we would play that for the majority of the tour. And then if it's we'll trim songs here and there depending on if we were playing a festival or playing like our own headlining show or something like that.
Got it.
the first like week or whatever of the tour, you're kind of like still kind of feeling it out, and kind of feeling like, oh, this song doesn't work as well after this song and stuff. And after like the first like week or so of shows, then you have like a pretty solidified, like, all right, this works.
So it's trial and error pretty much for you guys.
Most nights. Yeah.
Okay. So now with this new record you guys are coming out here, I know you mentioned before that there's I think you mentioned that there will be looking into some tours for 2022, so there's nothing set for the remaining part of the year as of right now for
fingers crossed, knock on wood, man. Depends on the world. Yeah.
Well, so let me ask you guys about something real quick. With playing shows, I know you and I, Tim, our first show together, we were kind of nervous and we were excited at the same time. But as far as like the first time guys playing as the Rememberables, were you guys nervous, or were you guys already accustomed to being able to play on stage and understand what to expect, what not to expect under those circumstances for you guys playing for the first time?
I remember having fun at our first show. Was it that Bat Black stage show?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We played with Together Pangea, right?
Was that it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I remember being pretty stoked, having a good time that night. I mean, Black Cat was a very like familiar club for us. It's we've been going to shows there since we were teenagers. We've played there a million times. So we had our first show there, starting this band, and I don't know. From what I remember it being pretty fun show.
Do you guys still get nervous before you guys go on stage, or are you guys already desensitized to coming out and playing?
Still get nervous.
Okay.
I mean, there's always a little nerves like going into, especially on tour when you're playing in front of a new crowd, in a new city. There's always that little a nerve of that, but in terms of the band as a unit, we're pretty tight. Like we get pretty well rehearsed before going on any road or tour or anything like that. So like once we start playing and vibing, it's usually fine. But there's always like the bit of nerves before going on that you go, okay, like this is a whole entire new crowd and they might not appreciate what we're doing.
You guys ever had crowds that just wasn't receptive to you guys at all? And
of course.
So how do you guys handle that for yourself? Like when you guys are playing in front of a crowd that just is not responsive to you, or I'm sure it varies as far as how the reaction would be for them. But when it comes to that, like how do you guys deal with that personally while you're playing on the set? And then, I mean, do you guys just don't look at them, keep your head down, or what's the process for you guys?
I'm kind of in the zone while we're performing, so I don't think I really usually notice until like after.
Same. I mean, I'm very much the same. Like,
okay,
like we get into a pretty good rhythm, and then it's only afterwards that you deal with it.
We had our one funny story we've told a bunch of times about completely emptying out this house show in Florida once.
It's the one that Matt was talking about earlier.
Oh, the one in Gainesville?
Yeah. Because I guess it was like, mostly like a more aggressive, like a punk rock kind of crowd, kind of bill. And we were like playing these like melodic, like poppy songs, and I guess they just weren't into it. And with the show started with it was a basement house party kind of show, and it was completely packed, maybe like I don't know, somewhere between 50 and 100 people in this like little basement.
Mm.
By the time our set was done, I looked up and there was like maybe 1 or 2 people like in the basement. I was just like, oh.
Oh my god,
But that one guy bought all the merch, so
that's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. I don't know if you remember, Tim, when we were in the group. I can't remember if I don't remember if you remember this conversation. I don't know if you remember the conversation. What I meant to say, where I think I was nervous for a show that we were about to play, and all I kept thinking about was how many people are going to be out there to watch us. And I think you were the only I think it was you, maybe Nick too. Maybe it might have been Robbie. I can't remember who, but I know it was you for sure that chimed in on this. And you were like, "Fuck it, don't worry about it." And I just couldn't get over that. So obviously, I knew that I was not in the right state of mind, as far as like the passion for music is concerned. But
we had some fun though.
Well, we had fun. Yeah, I'm not denying that. We definitely had fun, but it was obvious for me when I look back. I was like, I was just not in that same level of passion for playing music because you love it. I was in a whole different mindset. But so this was like one of those things where I always ask musicians when it comes to them playing is that, when they're playing in front of a crowd that isn't receptive to their music, that's part of the journey. That's something that you have to push through. And I always wonder if when they're saying that I'm passionate no matter what, even if they're dealing with that, are they still continuing with that passion despite those hurdles and those setbacks? Because after a while it can get to a person that maybe this is not what I expected and it's not what I wanted, but the ones that really are going to excel in is the ones that are going to push through it no matter what. That's how I always believe that's where the success comes from.
The rest of that story about the house show I was just describing,
Right.
if I continue to the end of the night, the most experienced touring musician of our band is our drummer Chris. He's been in many bands and traveled all over the world performing. And he kind of like huddled us together, like, by the van, like after that show. We loaded up all of our gear. And he was just like, you know what? I'm glad this happened, because we can, this will like bind us together. It was like one of our first tours or whatever,
Yeah.
like all together. So he was like, I remember that night specifically, he was like super positive and like kind of like giving us a like coach in the locker room kind of speech or whatever. And it was
a Bella Corolla for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that was a night that we all bonded on Thin Lizzy too.
Oh
Yeah. We blasted "Get Out of Here" as we rode off.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm talking about too, because like I said, you can usually tell who's gonna last, because usually I would imagine that in doing this, you're gonna filter out the people that really want to continue, who really are passionate about it and really want to do this, and those that you can tell are just doing it for superficial reasons. And I've seen a lot of that myself. I was one of those people too, but it was I always respect people that stick with stick with their passion through thick and thin, no matter what. Because I always find it hard to believe that when I come across a group, especially like your group, when I first heard The Stranger, I was like, this is fucking amazing. I really I loved what you guys did with that song. And I love the visuals that came with that as well, because there was something about it that I found rather unique. And then when I heard Breathe, I was like, this is really, really good. This is the type of stuff that you deserves to be played in front of a large crowd. But it's hard for me to comprehend at times how difficult it can be for the music to get out, because obviously the market is oversaturated with a bunch of different stuff, and there's a lot of different things that come along the way. Some may be more political in terms of like how certain areas are willing to play ball with others, when if you're not part of that circle, it may be difficult for you guys to kind of get in the in certain clubs, if you will. So I always respect guys that stick with it no matter what. And then what makes me respect even more is that the music is quality. So that's one of the reasons why I told Tim that I want to help promote you guys, because there's a certain quality you guys have with your music. And then even one of the performers I've seen you guys play live on YouTube, I've come across quite a few. And usually I like to get a feel for how the group is under different circumstances, whether it be like 50 people in a size capacity, a room capacity, or 10 people. But if the performances are consistent when it comes to their set list, then I know that they're where their mindset is at. They're about playing for the love of it. I understand there might be some some things that might go through your mind after the fact, but I wish we had a bigger turnout. I get that. But so I respect a lot with what you guys are doing, because it's not an easy thing to do. I learned that very early on as a kid. I mean, I'm sure Tim may recall a conversation that I had with you about let's play covers, and you were like this, you were so against it because you wanted to stick with original stuff. And I was not in that mindset. That's what I'm saying about my mindset at the time was not about the passion, it was about superficial things. So I
You're being
respect
too
you
hard on
guys.
yourself, man.
No, well,
You're
I
just
was,
kids,
because I knew
man.
where I was. I know, but I know where I was at
You're
the
like
time.
what,
I
like
was
14 or something at the
13 or
time?
whatever. Yeah. But I mean, again, like I knew right away, because I'm trying to shine a light on you right now, Tim, but that you were at another level of like of your musicianship. I knew when I saw the video, I was thrilled. Like, it may sound cheesy, but I was so happy to see that, because it's like I knew this is what you're going to be doing. I knew it, and I was like, this is the
I
Tim Bean that I
appreciate you,
remember.
man.
Yeah, I mean that. And then when you told me before that that you and Ben were in a group together, again, Ben, with the very little time I have spent with you, this may sound like I hope it doesn't sound like that. I'm not. I'm trying to make sure that when I'm saying this here, it doesn't sound like I'm making it up, because that's not the case, because I had time to reflect on it. But I do remember specifically thinking when I saw you guys perform, when you performed with Jinx at 12, you're the only one that stuck out for me in the group. And I'm not trying to show shade at anybody else, and that's not what I'm trying to do. But I remember distinctly thinking that you stuck out because there's a certain way that you played and you carried yourself that was unique for me. And I could see why Tim had gravitated towards you when you guys started forming a friendship, and then you guys developed a relationship with the music. Yeah.
The old flyer I had brought out just for this year, man.
I haven't seen that
In your old band, Red Handed
probably
Riot.
over 20 years.
Ben's old band, Jinxed at 12. Look
Right.
at that.
So
From forever ago.
yeah. So like there's a side of me that reflects on this here that I was looking forward to catch up with you guys about, because I wanted to take the opportunity to shine a light about what I've noticed you guys in trying to do my research on you guys, listening to your music, and just reflecting on the things that I recall about the specific traits that you guys had with yourselves at that time. And clearly you guys still carrying it and have developed those skills and, with your music and whatnot. And it's something that I find extremely, it's going to sound sappy, but I don't know how to say, but it brings a lot of joy in seeing this with you guys. It really, really does. Like I'm so happy to see guys that I have been around as a kid that are still doing what they love. And that to me brings a lot of happiness in seeing you guys do this here. So that's why I could tell before, I'm all about helping you guys promote with what you guys are doing, because
Thanks, man.
I believe in it. I'm being honest, your music is fantastic. I really, really find it wonderful. Like something about I connect with like immediately when I first saw The Stranger and I heard music, I was like, this is something that should be heard by everybody. Miles is one of my favorite songs you guys have done. I still think it's one of your best songs. And then I wanted to point out too about the last song on your record for Breathe, Dirt. I'm telling you guys right now, when I first heard that track, I almost cried, because there's something about that track that how it was an amalgamation of all the things that I loved as far as music was concerned. It was heavy, it was melodic, it was slow, then it built up, and it was like an emotional ride for me. It's hard for me to explain how what I mean by tearing up, because I wasn't like actually crying, but there was something that struck an chord with me, that it was like it connected with me in the areas that I love about music, and that it also connect with me in areas that when I think of music, I think of like how it can actually play to certain moments in my life. And this was one of those songs where I just started thinking about, when I listened to the music, I started reflecting on my life, and I used that as the backdrop to help complement those moments.
Where were you, if you don't mind me asking, without like having to necessarily, if it's too personal, but like
no, I don't mind talking about it at all. So you're talking about where my mindset was.
Yeah, yeah.
So okay, so when I first heard the track Dirt, I was physically in my room. My wife was downstairs cooking, and when I heard the song, I was thinking about a time when I was actually with my wife. We were going through some hard times, but nothing terrible. It was just like we had differences, and I just didn't know how to react to those differences. Like I was trying to figure out how to to articulate my thoughts. And those were areas that I felt like I lacked in at the time. So, but there was also moments where I remember trying to explain to her and her listening to me. And it was that slow buildup too, like, holy shit, she's waiting for a response. And when I heard that song, for some reason, I just reverted right back to that moment. And it was really like, it happened pretty organically because it was just, some of the things led to that, but it happened rather quickly because the song is about, almost 6 minutes long.
Yeah.
And about like the first minute, that's when it led up to it. And then the remaining thought process remained with that song. So that's where I was. And then there was a point where in the conversation that we were having where we had no idea how to go about and resolving our issue, but we reverted back to, but I still love you. And that's what I felt. And that's where I started feeling a little bit teary-eyed about, well, yeah, I wasn't teary-eyed, but felt really emotional. Like I had an emotional tear, if you will, like not physical tears. I don't know if that's the best way to describe it. I'm still trying to figure out how to properly articulate that. But I felt like there was something that I connected with that song that brought back a certain memory in time where I had all those emotions. I was angry. I was also very, I wasn't sad, but I was upset that I couldn't express myself very well. And for some reason, that song did that for me in bringing me back to that time. And there's a little more to that, which I won't get into, but it definitely had brought something to me that I had appreciated that music had always done for me, which was a soundtrack to moments in time. That's what I'm saying. When you watch movies, you can use certain songs that complement the scene. It won't do the whole film justice, but it will work in that one scene. That's what it was like for me at that time. And even today, and listening to the album again, honestly, I just get right straight to Dirt, because that's the first thing that I was wanting to listen to, because that's the one song that I connected with the most. I hope that's a song that you guys will be playing on your set, because I know it's a 6-minute long song, and I hope people will endure and listening to that. But
for sure.
Yeah, well, I hope you guys do, because that's a song that I didn't expect to connect with that record, mainly because of that song as much as I did, because like I said, it's an amalgamation of things that have fitted a specific time in my life that have all those wild emotions. It's very heavy emotions, very selfish emotions that I've had, and it all fit very perfectly with that song. I hope I didn't ramble on too much about that, but
no, thank you for sharing, man. I really appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you listening, but yeah, see, that's the thing. And what I found is so why I was so happy for you guys is because it was people that I've known from in the past that I've reconnected with now, that through your music. And I was like, this is what I didn't, I'm not saying I wasn't expecting this to happen, or was I thinking that I wanted it to happen, but I definitely wanted to feel a connection that, there's something in the past that I cherish so much, and I'm able to re-experience that again with your guys' music. And that's where my connection comes from. So there's a lot of great things that I've gotten from that period in time in my life, which I cherish so much, which is why I was like looking for Tim for that period of time. Like, what's he up to? Because those were good times that I've had. And then, now you guys are doing your thing. It's like full circle, if you will, for me. And it's a nice touch, a little signature, if you will, of having to experience those emotions that I've got to revisit again, that were great times, some good, bad times. In this case, with the argument that I had with my wife at that point, but there was also a nice moment for us to reflect on why we're still here for each other. But it was started with your music, which was nice. So again, I hope I didn't ramble on about that whatsoever. So
no, I appreciate hearing that story, and thank you for sharing, man.
Yeah, well, so let's shift gears there for a bit, because and I'm not embarrassed about what I was sharing here, but I'm just trying to be careful. Yeah, well, I was just trying to make sure that you guys understood why I was so looking forward to stuff, because looking forward to get talking to you guys, because great times, and it's nice to catch up with you guys again. And I've always been a big fan of you guys' music ever since The Stranger, and I'm so happy that when I heard the second record, you guys were getting better. That was the one thing that I was concerned about, because it's hard for me. It's hard for the first record, being so good. Can you guys continue on with that?
The old sophomore slump.
Right.
I think we successfully avoided it. Hope so.
I think you have, in my opinion. But I mean, but yeah, but you know, when you guys are you guys look back at yourselves at that time and you know, think about where you guys were and where you guys are now, and think about, you know, how I'm not saying if you question yourself, but do you guys ever feel like you have been very you know, do you appreciate where you guys have started and where you guys are now, going through what you have gone through, becoming friends the way you guys have, and actually sticking together through that whole creative process, where in most cases it could be you know, it can cause a lot of friction because there may be differences in opinions and there may be differences in approach, but yeah, you guys seem to put things together rather succinctly without any major hurdles along the way, as far as your creative juices are concerned. So do you guys ever take the time to reflect on those times when you guys had first met and where you guys are now, to, you know, see where you guys have, how you guys evolve as people, as musicians and as friends along the way?
Tim, is it all right if you want me to take this one?
Yeah.
I do a lot of reflection. I mean, I think that's really sort of the concept really behind the band, and a lot of the lyrical context and content that, you know, I try to put forth in the songwriting. But like ultimately with Tim, like, yeah, I sometimes I step back and I'm like, oh my God, we've been doing live music together, like performing live music together for over 20 years at this point.
Yeah.
And most of those years I've been playing with him. So it's like pretty wonderful. Like I you know, I have to say, like, definitely am grateful for that. Like, you know, I'm grateful that, like, you know, I have friends that have stuck by the wayside and didn't get, like, you know, left aside or anything like that. But like with Tim, like, yeah, it's crazy that we're still making music together. We're, you know, and as we've gotten older as adults, it's like we find a whole entire different realm of things to share and communicate and talk about that, you know, as kids you didn't even think twice about, you know. So like I think in that regard, it's always growing. It's always something that we're learning about each other. And I think that's super beautiful, if I'm going to be cheesy about it, Tim. But,
love you, bro.
like, yeah. Oh my God. I think that's the first time you ever said that to me.
Oh, shut up. No, it's not.
Exclusive, guys. No.
Yeah, exclusive stream. Tim says I love you.
Headlines, yeah.
Yeah.
But what about for you, Tim, though? I mean, you know, you and I, we talked not too long ago. I mean, we were stoked to catch up. I mean, but you know, with your relationship with Ben, and seeing what you guys have gone through, I mean, I'm sure there's sometimes you have opportunities to reflect on where you guys have started and where you guys are now, and how much you guys have progressed at this point.
Yeah, man, it's pretty nuts. We did the whole DIY thing, you know, when we were teenagers, early 20s and stuff, just touring in my minivan, going cross country and everything, playing all the small punk shows and the dive bars and the whatever.
You don't think about how big of a feat that is until you get older and you don't have the time to do that as much, and then you're like, oh, man. Like, we did a lot, you know, in a very short window. But,
we're talking about how spoiled we are now, going on these like overseas tours with, like, you know, not too long drives and stuff. And when me and Ben were like 19, we were driving 10 hours a day to play some small house show in some other state or whatever, just doing crazy stuff. Yeah. And yeah, it's pretty wild how far it's come. Now we got, you know, music videos and records coming out on labels, and we're going on like international tours and stuff. Well, not at the moment, but you know, hopefully this is just a phase we'll get past sooner or later and get back to it.
Do you guys I mean, I know you guys want to make this a full-time career, but you know, is there a point where you guys are looking telling yourselves of whether or not, if, you know, if we can't reach, you know, to the level that we want to, maybe we should take a step back and then focus on other things, but we'll still put this on the side and play whenever we can? Because I know that you guys have work full-time gigs and you guys have your own personal lives. So I understand it's a balancing that for everybody in the group. Especially, you know, like, you know, Matt lives in California, so obviously that's another thing that you guys to coordinate with him being on the other side of the country. But you know, is there a certain mindset you guys have as far as how long you want to continue on with this, and then where to stop, where you guys plan on stopping this to tour or to continue making music as much as you guys are doing it now, and then just kind of trim that down a bit to focus on other areas in your life?
Probably a constant back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, obviously, like, we have the luxury of not having, you know, family or like, you know, immediate like other beings that require our presence, you know,
Right.
which, you know, I think as those life circumstances come up, you know, that will change the dialogue and the communication with all of us. But right now, it's like we all love what we're doing, and you know, we're all musicians and artists that really care about what we do, you know, regardless of, you know, what kind of financial security it provides or lack thereof. You know,
Right.
I think that's the important part to understand about what we're doing. You know, it's like, I think if it was all about that, I think we chose the wrong business to be in, you know.
Yeah.
But for us, like, there was always a passion in doing it because it's what we enjoyed. Part of it is it's the only way we know how, you know, or it's the biggest strength of our communication, you know. And I
Profit
think
in adventure, if not, since
Yeah.
we don't get money. And that's
Well,
okay.
yeah, I think that's the most important part, is like always checking in with each other. And I think we have the benefit of the fact that we are as good friends as we are. So it's like, you know, if it comes to a point where you have to slow down and be like, okay, we can't do this as a touring band or whatever, you know, like hopefully we can still be making records that we care about and enjoy, and still be able to look back and be like, okay, these are, you know, things that we created together and are now archived in a moment in time.
Yeah. You know, I don't know if you guys ever seen this movie called Garage Days. You ever heard of that film?
I've heard about it, but
It's well, the reason I'm bringing it up is because this movie, it's directed by Alex Proyas, who directed The Crow, and he directed Dark City, and he recently directed Gods and what's it called, Gods of Egypt or something. Anyways, so the reason I'm bringing this up is because in the movie, the group is trying to make it big, and you never hear how the band sounds. They're always like, they're trying to create they're trying to create a hit so that way they can just, you know, become big rock stars, if you will. But you never hear their songs that they're playing. You always happen to catch it before or after the fact. And then they have this one opportunity where they're going to play at this massive festival in Australia, because the movie takes place in Australia. They're playing this massive festival. It's not Big Day. It was something else. I can't remember what it was called. And I have the movie. I should rewatch it again. But
How have I not seen this movie?
I don't know, but I recommend you guys.
Cool.
I think you guys would appreciate the movie, because it really does.
I like the director.
Yeah. Well, so the point I'm getting is that they are playing this gig. They finally have a shot at the festival by kind of like by freak chance, but their opportunity is taken away because some major band is playing on the main stage, and as a result of them playing on the main stage, all the other bands that are playing on these other stages can't play because all the attention's got to be on them now. So that's the politics aspect of it. So anyway, so the band managed to get on stage, and when they're playing live, you realize how bad they really suck. So there's no way they're going to make it big. But what was funny is that what was great about the movie is that at the end, they realize that, well, they're not meant to be rock stars, but they're meant to just keep playing music, and they find a way to play music to satisfy their artistic needs, if you will, their you know, their drive. And it's a happy story in the way that it ended, despite all the hurdles that they go through. So I always wondered that, you know, there's got to be a musician out there who probably was never going to make it big, or probably never had the opportunity to showcase their skills to the world, if you will, but they're probably in some little town somewhere that no one's ever heard of, or probably is never going to go visit, but they have just as much drive and ambition, probably much better music qualities than your mainstream artist, if you will. And I always
millions of them.
Yeah, right. And that's what I'm saying, because that's the thing about that what that movie had taught me, is that there's probably some bands out there we have never heard of. That's why I'm surprised to find groups, you know, through the internet, that I'm like, how have these guys never made it big to the grand stage that I think they deserve? Like, you guys are one of those groups that I come across. There's there's another group called Decent Criminal that I've come across recently that I was blown away. These guys are amazing. You guys are amazing, but no one's ever heard of you guys. And why aren't you guys at that level? But then again, I realized that the business can be very fickle. It's a very, very rough business, a very tough business. But there's got to be a part of you that wonder that when you guys are playing music, you're content with what you're doing, and you're able to continue doing it because there's something you're still getting out of it. And we already discussed before in a lot of ways actually. But I was thinking about that movie when you guys were talking about your experiences, and it's a film that I highly recommend you guys do check out. It's called Garage Days. It came out back in 2002.
I'll probably watch it tonight.
Yeah, I'm not sure where you can find. I'm sure you can find it on Amazon somewhere. But
yeah, I'll rent it for like $2 on Amazon or whatever.
yeah, whatever it's at, right? But so I'm getting is that you guys, I'm sure you guys come across a lot of musicians, a lot of groups out there that you're blown away with the music that they're making. And I understand that the music you've come across can be something that could be huge if given the right opportunity, but they're playing at a club that no one's going to go to. But you are listening to what they're doing and you're thinking to yourself, holy shit, there's a lot of creative people out there or great musicians that no one's ever heard of, and we're right in this moment in time watching this art, if you will, that no one else is watching, and I'm right here this time observing it. And it's an opportunity that probably no one else will ever get, but yet here I am. So I'm wondering if you guys have experienced that while being on the road or visiting some spots.
Absolutely.
Many times.
I mean, that's part of the enjoyment of why, I think, if we're talking about things that we gravitated towards when we were 14 and 15, I think that was why we enjoyed the live shows and played the live shows that we did, is because up until then, we were only, fed what we heard on DC 101 or 99.1
FM radio,
99.1, yeah.
And so part of it is the adventure of like coming in and feeling like this is personally yours, and that you get to share that experience with like fellow other people. And I don't know about you, but I definitely didn't feel like coming in as a braces and poorly dyed hair freshman in high school. I definitely did not feel like I fit in with any of my kids at Fairfax. But then I go to my first punk show, and it's happening in the middle of a cafe. You find out that kids that are 14, 15 are setting this up, getting all these bands together, and they're maybe 2 years older, maybe not. And they're setting up these great shows that hundreds of kids are coming out to. They all look like the weirdo punk kids that you see in magazines and stuff like that. And you're like, this is cool. Yeah. This is a world that has accepted me for who I am. And then also at the same time, I'm seeing something that relatively feels unknown to everybody else. And I think that's why people, when you were younger, you held bands so sacredly, because it was just that belonged to you. You had that emotional attachment to them, I remember seeing a band like Majority Rule or Darkest Hour even back in the day, playing what was that house with the greenhouse in Vienna?
In Vienna, Virginia.
Yeah.
Sounds familiar.
We would go to shows there all the time growing up.
But I think keeping a little bit of that spirit in that, having that in hindsight, you sort of always will approach music in that regard too, that no matter how much you do it, no matter how many records you've heard that sound similar or whatever, there's always going to be some band or artist that surprises you that, is going to take something and reinvent that wheel, or they just deliver something that is very emotional and it resonates. And I think that's always a surprising element of that's part of the tour experience too. It's bands that you would have never had the opportunity to see otherwise, you're suddenly sharing a bill with, or you happen to be walking into the cafe or bar or wherever at the right time and come across them,
Do you guys feel like when you guys when you're watching bands in those moments on in the underground scene, if you will, and you have that impact that they have with their music, do you feel like those impact are more meaningful under those circumstances? Say, for example, if you heard a song on the radio, I mean, I'm sure it's not the best question to ask, but I always wondered if discovering the hidden gems, if you will, is that going to be something that you feel like is much more, has a lot more, what's the word I want to use? Like it's meaningful, I guess is the best way I can describe it. If there's another term, I forget what it is, but I hope you understand where I'm coming from with that.
I mean, definitely, yeah. If I see some unknown underground independent act play for a small crowd and it totally blows my mind, I'll like become way more attached to that than the latest, pop song I thought was cool or whatever.
Yeah. Or like, take like, I don't know, like there's some records that like, some DC bands that will put out that like production wise, the record is not really that strong, but they were much better as a live band. Yeah. And live band was the first impression that you get. And so then you buy the record because you're like, okay, this is the tunes that I remember from playing or seeing them live. And now I resonate with it, but it's only after the matter of like watching a performance.
No, go on. You were going to say.
No. That was, you stopped me from rambling. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just going to say, I've been fortunate enough to, like I said before, find music through the internet. I haven't gone to a lot of live shows as of late for obvious reasons, but discovering new music in the internet has like always been, I think, the best thing that I've been able to do. And because I listen to one band, then listen to another band, and you can just kind of filter out and take the time you want with it, right? Back in those, at least when I was growing up, I'm sure you guys can relate to this too. It's always word of mouth in the area, right? Listen to this group, listen to that group. But when you don't have that community, if you will, to be able to do that anymore, or at least for that period of time, the internet is always the best tool as far as I'm concerned, where you can discover music. So I'm curious now with you guys when it comes to how the music industry has changed, especially for indie music. Because before it was a dream to be able to create a record and sell it, out in the record store or in the market to some degree. But now that has changed such a great deal that it's not necessary. Now record stores are like a thing of the past, but to be able to still sell your records, sending it out to like I purchased your vinyl and I know that it's not going to be a record that I could find at a store, but because I was able to order it online, I have the ability to have a physical copy that I can take with me and listen to it at the house. But the internet was a tool that allowed me to do that. So for you, when you guys are seeing what you've seen from when you were kids up to where you are now and seeing how the industry has changed, especially with the indie scene, do you feel like the things are getting better in terms of having music accessible for people to find or for you to release it? Or do you prefer the older method where you have the initial dream of having it in the record store where you can actually have to go somewhere, get it, search through the catalogs, and then take it back home with you, not knowing what it is, but understanding that it's a risk, but it could be a good one or a bad one?
I mean, for sure, the online market has, definitely made it much more accessible. And I mean, without it, we wouldn't, like you said, you made the pre-order online. Like there was no way that we could, generate the kind of buzz that, you have the ability and the tools to with online now. Right. But is there some enjoyment about like going into like a record store and like being able to like pick out a vinyl or see your own vinyl in there? Like for sure. Like, I mean, I think that's why we still yearn to have that physical copy, so that that there's, a concept, there's a approach, there's a certain kind of packaging that goes with that record that the band has created together to, and I think that we'll always yearn for that, but like,
and it just sounds better.
Yeah, something about it sounds better too. Yeah. Do you guys still collect physical records or CDs? Okay.
I like collecting vinyl still.
Yeah. My partner has amassed a treasure trove of records in her living room now. It's just taking up a bunch of space, and
nice.
I have a feeling it will go to storage at some point.
Never.
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys can tell from just looking in the background that I have, physical copies of a bunch of stuff, and it's
man.
There's a part of me that's like, I do question, like, do I really need all that stuff? But but something like I have a TV in the loft right now, and it's an old school box TV set, wooden frame, whatever else.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I always feel that I'm only going to watch a movie that I truly cherish on that set, because something about that vintage look of the television brings me back to a special time in my life. So it's like, if it's worthy, I'll put it in there. It sounds silly, but it's like, with all the shit that I have here, if you guys were in my house right now, you would see like all the stuff that we have here. It's toys and posters, and
I'm right there with you.
So I've got a standee here too. So
what is that, Green Ranger?
Yeah.
Yes. I'll have to share with you, Rob. I have a photo of me from childhood that my mom sewed me a Green Ranger costume.
Oh, so he was your favorite?
Oh yeah, I was there for the prime time episode when he turned into White Ranger.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I stayed up for that. I remember.
So did I.
Yeah, I went to like the Power Rangers on Ice at Patriot Center.
You actually went to that?
Yeah, where it was like an AC/DC concert. Yeah, dude. Destroy Lord Zed with like this holographic card.
I remember when I saw the movie in theaters, the one that came out in '95. I thought it was like the best. I mean, I look back at it now. I mean, I look at the film now.
Oh, like, with Ivan Ooze.
Yeah, it's like hasn't held up very well, but there's still a charm that I think the film still has that I still gravitate to. But yeah, I actually got to meet what's his name, Steve Cardenas, the Red Ranger.
Yeah,
he was actually here in town in Gastonia, because this is where I live at. He was at a comic book store signing. A very nice guy. I'm always kind of skeptical about people who are doing these like sign conventions or sign-in type of things, because they're signing the same thing over and over again, and can they keep up with that same attitude of like, hey, yeah, sure, nice to see you, but I gotta admit, man, that guy was an absolute sweetheart. Like, if you ever get an opportunity to meet the guy, I say pay whatever the amount is. I think I pay like $45. I can't remember. I might be exaggerating the amount, but it's like somewhere in that price range. But it's an absolute sweetheart. I even went back. My wife was like, "Can we have him sign the because we have a Red Ranger helmet that she bought." And we went back and we told, hey, I'll pay for you to sign this, to write the, red, whatever it was she asked him to sign. And he did it for free. So, it's like a piece of my childhood where the guy, who I admired as a kid, because he was my favorite Ranger, then was taking a nice gesture to do something complimentary, which, he had every right to charge, but was very nice about it. So I'll always remember those little moments in my life, and then having to meet him like that. It's a nice reminder there are some people out there in the industry that are kind and caring and understanding under those circumstances, especially when they're making their money off of those signatures. So, I got to give him a lot of props for him being so for cool with that. But I like to know about what you guys are doing when it comes to your downtime with playing music, because I know, Tim, you're constantly coming up with stuff, and I know you, Ben, are always constantly writing up music. But do you guys ever think about doing other things as far as like, because you guys play standard 6-string, but are you guys considering doing other things with expanding your sound, going to 7-string, 8-string, or whatever the case may be, to really challenge yourself or try something completely different altogether with adding something to the music that hasn't been done before for the group?
On the new record, I played some piano, and Kurt Ballou, the producer, actually played some saxophone on a couple of tracks. That was pretty cool.
I'm trying to remember if I heard a sax.
It was on Bummer.
Yeah, it's on the single. Yeah.
He's playing a bare sax, so he's not doing anything showy. He definitely wanted to meld into the background.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a rhythm part during the chorus and stuff. It's not like a crazy like Clarence Clemens solo or nothing like that.
Okay. I mean, are you guys like looking to try something more to make it as part of the music, as far as, like I said, adding a like a 7-string, 8-string, and things of that nature? Are you guys considering doing something like that?
Or maybe not a 7-string, but like definitely, like, I think, I'm sure, Tim, you could vouch for this, and Chris can too, but I think having like you know, multiple projects or having other creative outlets helps bring a lot of influences back into it. And
Right.
you know, you never want to make the same record twice, you know, like and I think we're cognizant of that. I mean, we're not going to do something crazy and do like a Kid A album or like a, you know, like, I mean,
Man, never say never,
not,
bro.
I know, but like, there's only a few bands that could do that without ending up being like Coldplay, you know?
I'm going to replay this for you in like 10 years when you make that
No, but like with that being said, like, yeah, you definitely want to play around with different arrangements, whether or not it means like bring in like additional different instruments or I definitely think arrangement will change. Influences of the of bands that we're listening to or that records that we're trying to make will lend a different tone, you know. And I know for me vocally, I'm always trying to find new ways of A, getting better with my voice, but then B, also utilizing that strength and sort of testing where it can take it, you know. Without going Celine Dion.
Do you take? Have you ever taken vocal lessons, or is it Is this all like self-taught more or less with how you were maintaining yourself?
Self-taught, really.
Okay.
I mean, like it's and if we're talking about things that like always, you know, had insecurities with, and like, you know, much with the same thing with having some nerves, like, you know, I think every time I get to a recording project and hear a recording, I'm always very insecure about my voice
Every time?
Every time.
Really?
Every time.
So even if you listen to your songs now and you're getting it's well received, you still feel that same
yeah.
Really?
It's a bit like there's always an imposter syndrome too.
Okay. Well, what about for you, Tim? I mean, you still feel the same with yourself when you listen to yourself play?
I guess, I mean, I haven't had any like really formal lessons. I've just had more like private one-on-one lessons.
Yeah, I remember that.
Like, with like personal friends, you know, just like hanging out with other musicians and stuff. So, you know, I've just been doing it for a long time and just picked up a little bit here and there, you know.
I see. But no singing for you though, right?
No, I don't even put a microphone in front of me on stage. I don't even say anything. I'm all guitar. Yeah.
No, not on one of the records. Not on one song at all. No,
not on our records.
Yeah, no.
I think on a Walk the Plank record, I do some like background like group like screaming or whatever, but not like any singing or anything.
Yeah. I'll have to get in touch with So. I think he has a Jinx at 12 recording where he could isolate your vocal.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, really? Okay.
The chanting parts or whatever. Oh no, that'd be super embarrassing.
Yeah. Just have it on like a 10-minute loop.
Oh no, that'd be terrible.
What's one thing you guys won't do as far as like your music endeavors are concerned? Is there something you would avoid doing as far as like what you want to include with your songs or just the overall package of your music altogether? Is there something you will avoid doing, period?
I think
why not like a let's go shout in the middle of a recording? Or like a guitar, you know, probably won't do that. I might try to slip it in a live show and get like a lot of frowns and disappointed faces.
I'm a never kind of guy, man.
Except when it comes to the singing at a show, right?
Yeah.
I'm open to whatever, dude. I'll put fuse in any kind of music, any kind of influence. I don't really care if it's cool. If it's cool, it's cool, you know.
Ben, let me ask you, what was actually the first song or group that you heard that made you realize like this is what I want to do? Like what was that for you?
Oh man, I don't know, because I grew up with an older I have an older brother who's was one of the biggest it still is one of the biggest influences in my life, but he had a strong record collection, had a lot of musical friends that came by, but I remember, so I was listening to music and like I grew up with a lot of music my mom had me on, but like I think the record that really did it for me was, I remember being 7 years old and my family had gotten into a car accident. So I was sort of resting at home with injuries for like a couple weeks, and my brother brought home a record from Sam Goody, and he brought home Nirvana Nevermind to me, and it was just like,
Oh, okay.
here you go. And I was like, whoa.
And you
like,
said you were 7, right?
Yeah, I was 7, so I was like a very impressionable kid. I was like, yo, this is popular music right now. Like, this guy's screaming his ass off. And I remember finding the hidden track on the album and being like, yo, this is cool. And he's really just screaming his ass off here. He's not even singing words for the most part, you know? Yeah. But I think the band that really got me playing guitar and deciding to write my own music was, I remember going to a record and tape exchange over in Fairfax, and I was gonna try to pick up Green Day Dookie, and my brother stopped me from doing so, and he was like, if you want to hear like a better version of this, check out Dear You. And he handed me that record, and I remember hearing Save Your Generation, and just hearing the guitars on that and being like, oh, this is cool. And after that, I started playing guitar, and I think I was like 10 or 11 at that point.
And so that was a turning point for you. Like, this is what you wanted to do as far as what your passion was, or was that something you discovered later on as you continued with that?
I think as I started continuing with that, I mean, like, I was always like a movie-based kid. I think my first love was always wanting to like make home videos and all that stuff.
Oh, okay.
But then like musically, like that was what really like took over for me. And then I was like, oh, like this is something I really enjoy doing. And yeah, from 11 on, I think by the time I got into 7th or 8th grade, I was already trying to like play live music. I think we played like the end of the year carnival for like graduating middle school kids or something like that. And you know, we were playing a bunch of covers, you know, and I brought out a couple singles like or like originals, you know, the 2 songs that I had and tried them out. They were, you know,
what was
songs are.
Was the writing process for you, creating your own songs, is that very difficult, or was it kind of natural for you to be able to kind of find your rhythm and putting the pieces together?
No, it was horrible. Like, you know, like I the first like few years of songs, I was still learning to play guitar. I mean, I still am, but like, it's like, you know, you learn the chords, you start imitating the songs that you like at that time, and then you're like, okay, maybe I'll just turn this into a jingle and, you know, try it out. And yeah, like, I mean, all the first batch of songs are horrendous, but were they fun? Was it like a explorative thing? Yeah. And then, you know, I think it made early on where I had the Tim mindset where it was like, screw doing covers. Like, let's just focus on trying to write original stuff, because there's something to be said about doing that.
What was that point for you when you told yourself that no covers, all original stuff for me? What was that period for you? When did that occur? I meant to say
early on in like freshman year.
Really?
Yeah.
That's around the same time Tim said that to me.
Yeah, because okay, so like I was doing like a short-lived like band, you know, with your friends in the garage, and
right.
we were doing covers, and we did a couple shows where we did that. And I think it just was a thing where I was like, I don't know what the incentive was. Maybe it was just because like as a young kid, you just sort of wanted to play around and explore with things that you didn't know, the same way that you wanted to go to shows to see bands that you never heard of and check out. It was like part of it was just like you wanted something a little bit different from the normal experience. And I remember like the kids I was playing with at the time, they were like, I don't want to do that. I just want to play songs that we know. And so that band stopped playing, and I started playing with other kids because I was like, I sort of want to just see what you can do and what was out there. And I lucked out with the first group of kids that I hung out with, like did that band. Like Andrew was like, for the drummer for Jinx at 12, was just a natural beast, you know. He was doing drum beats that I didn't know any other 14-year-old kid could play at that time.
Yeah, I remember that now.
But you know, I think that was sort of the turning point for me. There was no like set thing in stone. It was just I think there was an explorative, curious side of me that just wanted to see what we were capable of doing, you know.
Right. Um, let me ask you guys about the music scene in the metropolitan area for you guys, because I was actually talking to American television not too long ago about what the scene is like now and how it was like for, well, at least for myself growing up. Um, do you guys see any growth or any sort of a strong local community scene, music scene in the area, as far as like, you know, local music is concerned, or just the music scene in general? Like, do you guys feel like it's still out there, or does it kind of just shift as far as, you know, the popularity or the attention that comes with that? What's your guys' experience with that as of now?
It definitely ebbs and flows for sure. It comes and
Yeah.
goes. Yeah, there's a definite waves, not only in popularity but also in sound as well. Like, I don't know. It depends on. It seems all kind of scattered now. There's like a lot of like different things going on, you know.
Yeah.
Like if you go to one of like Chris's shows, you'll see a bunch of like, you know, punk and hardcore bands and stuff, and like that's still going on all over the city. And then if you go to like, you know, the Black Cat Club or whatever, you know, you'll probably see some more like rock and roll kind of stuff. And there's a ton of music scenes I'm not even like involved in. There's like a really like old school history of like jazz all over DC that I don't really know much about, but I know it's like all over the city. And like all kinds of different traditions, like go-go music, and there's like this small cafe I walk by all the time, and like I don't know, there's kind of a lot going on, and I know about the rock scene because we're a part of that, but there's also like also just walk by random restaurants in my neighborhood in Silver Spring, Maryland, and see some crazy like African musicians doing some like wild stuff. Like it's kind of all over the place. It kind of shows the diversity of Washington D.C., if you will. People from the whole world live here.
What about for you, Bennett? You feel like the scene in the area has been evolving, or just as Tim said, it's ebb and flow for you?
I mean, yeah, it always goes through ebb and flows, right? Because you go through a generation of, or not a generation, but you go through times a place where like a certain region will have much more of an active scene, you know. And DC's been lucky that they've always had some sort of activism that has always been in the underground independent scene. But I think musically it is pretty nice right now. Like there's a lot of new upcoming, there's a lot of a bigger indie rock scene coming out of DC these days, which is cool.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was going to say something about you. You were
no,
my apologies.
Please.
Well, I was just going to say, because the guys over at American Television were telling me about a group of bands out there that are in the scene that apparently is getting a lot of attention from people that I guess they at least expected it from, as far as like, you know, as far as like the scene is concerned. There's a group called Origami Angel that they were telling me about that's in the area. Yeah. And I was like, and because they were describing to me like it's more like an artsy type of scene, that it seemed like was something that was starting to come out more and more. So when I was listening to them, I was like, holy shit, it's like it's a two-piece band and they sound incredible. And I saw some of the footages on YouTube where they're playing at some shows, and it's amazing what they were able to pull off being a two-piece band. And then there's some other groups too. Bad Moves, I think, was another group they had mentioned to me as well. That is more or less kind of the same artsy vibe, if you will. So like it seems like, you know, there's a certain style of music that's kind of catching on, and right now, from what I'm gathering from them, that's really where more of the attention is kind of gravitating to, in that form of music, that artsy mix of like because I listen to Origami Angel. For some reason I always think of video games because it has that kind of like eclectic range to it that I thought fits more of in a video game realm, but you can still feel that artsy vibe to it too. Bad Moves doesn't necessarily have that video game aspect to it, but you definitely feel the rock and roll artsy vibe to it that they have a different approach on, which I appreciated too. But yeah, it seems like that's something that they said has been more popular in the area rather than, I guess, some of the stuff that we were growing up with. So
I would agree with that. I guess I've
okay.
been seeing more kind of artsy, garage rocky like kind of stuff than I've been seeing like aggressive hardcore or like
But that scene's still vibrant in the area, not necessarily particularly DC focused, but because we're sandwiched between Baltimore and Richmond, it's always around.
yeah, for sure.
And you both are in Maryland, because I know you, Tim, you're in Maryland, but are you in Maryland too as well? Ben?
No, I'm recently back in Virginia.
Oh, back in the Fairfax area?
Arlington, Clarendon area.
Oh, really? Oh man, what part of Arlington?
Yeah, Clarendon.
Oh, sorry, you said Clarendon.
Yeah,
My baby.
yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
yeah. No,
sorry, you said that. Yeah, you know, when I was a kid, I remember Clarendon not being the place that it was now.
Oh yeah,
it's weird.
Yeah, I remember.
Everything's different in DC than when we were kids, man.
Yeah,
like,
I remember.
For sure. It's a completely different thing.
Yeah, it's. I remember when I was a kid, like it was Rosslyn. Ross was not the place that it was now. I was, because I used to live in South Arlington when I was a kid, and going through those areas was just not always the best experience, but I always had a good time regardless. But especially during Halloween. But you know, so in the Virginia scene, is it more or less the same thing too, or is it just mainly DC that's experiencing the big musical attraction as far as the local scene is concerned?
I don't know much about the Virginia scene these days. Like I don't know if there is
okay
one. You know, like it is weird because like I think just in terms of sheer like time to focus or devote on going to shows, I don't have that same luxury that I did when I was younger, you know.
Right.
Now it's mainly doing like, you know, long work days. If I get out for a show that I really want to see, I'll go see it, but it's sort of a fight sometimes
going on we just don't even know about because we're just disconnected now. I don't know.
Maybe yeah, it's got to be weird though, right? Having that the disconnect, because even now here where I'm living at, I don't even know what the music scene is even like in my area. It's crazy because I don't even know where to look for me to find what, you know, what local groups are out there. Because even when I look in through Google local music scene in in Charlotte, that's because Charlotte's right next to where I'm at. It's like giving me shows of like at the Spectrum Center, which is where like Metallica will be playing or whatever else. I'm like, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for more like the local scene. So it's very difficult.
You know the Milestone Club?
What was that?
You know the Milestone Club in Charlotte?
I've passed by there once. I'm not familiar with it, to be honest with you.
That would be like the type of like level we're on or whatever, like the small rock club, the local club that's still getting like national touring acts and stuff, you know?
Oh, okay. Well, see, I'm glad you know that because I had no idea.
yeah, no, that place is cool. I've played there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm trying to find out like what's out there right now in the area because I mean, again, I'm curious to find the next like band that is going to like appeal to me the way that you guys have done, and you know several other groups that have come along the way, because it's I believe in the local scene. I want to support it, but you know it's I just don't keep up with it. Just like you guys, you're busy, I'm busy, and then a lot of the energy that we're focusing on our free time is something that, you know, it would occupy our time that wouldn't probably take us away from us to be able to look at other things that we would probably have the time to do when we were younger, not having all those you know additional amount of responsibilities. I mean, having a kid, the dogs especially, it's very time consuming. So yeah, I get where you guys are coming from, but it's I think it's great though that, you know, you guys are still in touch with, you know, some of the local scene to a degree, because you know it's an area that I'm not gonna lie, I don't miss the Northern Virginia area, but I do miss the local scene as far as music is concerned, because that's where I still am finding groups in that area that I'm reaching out to the most, like American Television, obviously you guys, Walk the Plank, even though everyone's kind of living in their own respective states, but it's always coming back from that part of the region. So you know, it still comes back to me. So it's something about that. It never has gone away. So I'm glad I still feel that connection with it. And that you guys are still around it. It's even better too, because I have someone to converse with about that as well.
But in the rock and roll scene, DC has had some pretty good phases.
Yeah, yeah, I
Coming
remember.
out of here. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I listen. I'm actually gonna have to be cutting it off in a few here, but I'm gonna try to. Want to just say something here with you guys, and then I'll let you guys close up with anything as you may want to provide here as far as any upcoming things you guys are coming down the pipeline. This has been something that I've been looking forward to from the time that I reached out to you, Tim. I was looking forward to this conversation for a long time. And for the reasons I've already said before, which I won't do again now, but I don't know how you guys have felt in certain parts of the conversation to look back at some things that we've experienced at some point of our lives growing up in the area. But it was nice to revisit those times and reflect on them and have you guys share your experiences about what you guys have gone through in the music scene and in your own lives, and still doing what you guys are very passionate about. And this was everything that I was hoping for and then some. I felt like I rambled on too much because there was a part of me that was like trying to contain myself, because I had a lot of emotions towards this conversation, because it was a lot of great memories that I have, and there's a lot of great joyous moments that I've had from that time that I miss and cherish so much. And to share these moments with you guys and converse with you guys to catch up, and hearing you guys' stories about this stuff, you have no idea how much that meant for me. So it was a true pleasure to speak with you guys about this here. And I don't know if you guys have anything else you guys want to add to that, but I mean, I'm speechless in a lot of ways about how I really feel about this whole thing. But I hope I articulated the best way that I could for you guys to see where I'm coming from, even though I rambled on before. But
I was super stoked to see that you were doing this YouTube show, man, with talking to all these bands and doing reviews and stuff. It's cool, man.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. But yeah, man, I have I'm overwhelmed with a lot of good emotions here, and it's something I didn't expect, but I kind of expected it. I'm not sure if it makes any sense, but it's been a fun time, guys. I really cherish this time that I've had with you guys here, and I'm looking forward to see shows that you guys are going to be playing. Whether you guys from in Virginia, you guys are in the area, or if I just happen to be anywhere in the area you guys are playing at, I would go out of my way to find your guys and check out your shows. But is there anything else you guys want to say here as far as what else to be expecting down the line for you guys, as far as upcoming shows or anything else that has been mentioned at all that you want to share now?
Yeah. We have pre-orders up now for that record, which you could find at Head to Wall Records under their Big Cartel for the US release, or Adagio 830 Records for the European release for it. And it goes up and it's going to be released October 8th. And then we have only one show right now confirmed for 2021, and that's we're opening for Be Well, which is the new super group with Brian McTiernan, who did all of our favorite records growing up. And
Mike Schleibaum from
Mike Schleibaum.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it's like a hardcore group with all these guys that play in other like popular bands. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And Bitter Branches is playing that show too, so it's going to be a good one.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's October 15th in DC at the Pie Shop.
Yeah, well, I'll have this. This is going to be airing well before the release date for the record, so I'll have it out in time, and I'll have all the images posted up for you guys as far as the upcoming shows. In this case, that upcoming show, and I'll also have a link in the description below for everyone to look into and follow you guys, and hopefully that will bring more attention to what you guys are doing. And then I know you guys have mentioned that 2022 is probably the most likely time you guys will be touring, but it's still kind of up in the air as far as some confirmed dates you're looking to verify whether or not it'll actually be coming to fruition or not. So I'll be on the lookout for that as well too, to help promote any upcoming shows you guys have coming down the pipeline. But yeah, guys, I mean, I said it before and I'll say it again. This was a lot of fun for me. This is a very meaningful conversation that I had with you guys. It was great to catch up with you guys, especially with you, Tim. This is the first time I actually seen your face in well over 10 years. And for you, Ben, it's been the first time I've seen you since high school. So it's been a long time. So yeah, I
on the phone, but in face to face is nice.
Yeah. I can't wait to see you guys in person and just catch up and just continue on from here. This I'm a little more collective. I'll be at this point, because I was actually kind of nervous, to be completely honest with you, leading up this, because it was like, it's kind of weird. I didn't expect for me to feel so, like all over the place. I was just trying to contain like all these thoughts that I had in my mind about what this actually meant for me. So if I seem a little off, I apologize, but this was something that I was excited for, and I can't thank you guys enough. Really, it means the world to me. It really, really does, from the bottom of my
Thanks,
heart.
man. I
This was
enjoyed
great,
it as
man.
well.
Thanks for having us, man.
No, thank you guys for coming along here. And as I said before, I'm going to have everything in the link in the description down below for everyone to follow here. And like I said, I will be doing my absolute best to help promote you guys. And anything you guys have coming on the pipeline, if you guys are looking for a way to promote anything you have coming down the road, please reach out to me. I would be happy to support you guys and do what I can to bring more awarenesses to the best of my ability. But yeah, man.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
No,
Hit me up if you're ever in the DC area or in
of course, man,
or whatever, man. Hang out.
Of course, absolutely, yeah. I will definitely do that here for you guys. But yeah, guys. Well, listen, you guys take care of yourselves out there. I wish you guys nothing but great success, and I hope to meet with you guys real soon, and we'll just go from there. But until next time, guys, you stay safe out there. Cheers.